Okay. Oops, I got some feedback going here. I got to turn down my mic speaker. Okay, let me know if it's working now, guys. I think live stream seems much healthier now in this video, I think. Cool. What's up, everybody? Morning. Okay, figured that out. This software is really, it's kind of confusing. It's like I'm using this, it's called Wirecast, and I don't really know how to use it other than to hit the stream button and hope to hell that it works, and it seems to be working now. So anyway, it's kind of how I use software all the time. I just figure it out enough to get it to work. And somebody says latency. Is there latency? I don't know. Oh, it says now I'm gone. Okay. So I might have to adjust the settings. I might have it set for too high of like 720p HD or whatever. It might not be. Slight video latency, audio delay. It says, somebody's saying. So maybe I need to adjust that, bump it down to 420. Video ahead of audio. All good here. Somebody says I look tired. That's just how I look in the morning, man. It's like Sunday morning, you know, what can I say? I am drinking coffee, though, so I'm doing my best to wake up. I slept good. Don't worry. Don't worry. People are saying it looks good here. Maybe it just needs to catch up or something, you know? But I don't know. I might experiment with the settings. You can stream at 1080p or 720p, or you can stream at 480, and then it might just work better. No latency in Sweden. That sounds good. Probably because you guys got high-tech internet. Coffee. Somebody says seems okay in England. All right. Yeah, most people are saying no latency, and just depends what you're watching on. Well, cool. I'm glad it works. So somebody says cool amplifier box demo video. Thank you very much. That thing is great, I have to say. I was really impressed with it. I don't know if you guys have seen that video or not. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's the atomic amplifier box, and it lets you, it's basically an amp modeler. So you can do up to 9 models at a time. And you can actually I don't know if I made this clear in my demo video, but you can download more models into it off their website if you want to try different ones. It's just, it'll only host 9 at a time, but which is plenty, right? 3 clean, 3 crunch, 3 dirty. And yeah, I was just really knocked out by it. And the number one thing that I think is so cool is you can kind of take it anywhere, and it's like a 2-channel amp rig. So either running it into, say, disable the speaker simulation, run it into a power amp and a guitar cabinet, and it becomes your preamp and tone source, and you can toggle between 2 presets just like you would on a 2-channel amp with clean and dirty. That's pretty cool. But also you can run it right into a PA, of course. So, you know, if you want to, for a recorder, if you want to go do like of some sort, you want to go do a session somewhere at somebody's house or whatever, you can just bring that thing. So I think I might build a little like pedal board with like a one of those pedal train mini tuner, and then have that thing, and then like maybe like an H9 or something like that, and that's all you need. You know? Pretty cool. Got folks in Scotland. Somebody says it's perfect in Scotland. Cool. Okay, more questions here. Closed YouTube and reopened it, and then the latency disappeared. Yeah, so if there's latency or weirdness, maybe just refresh the page, see if that works. Somebody said their oscillation overdrive says wondering about if you could somehow model with that unit. You can't like do your own models, but it you know, it's got a wide range of models that they make. I'm talking about the atomic box, the amplifier box. Hi from France. What's up, France? I miss you. I really miss France. Actually, I'd love to go back and hang. Any NAMM plans? Yes, but they're all secret. All secret. Stuff happening at NAMM for sure. Looking forward to it. Can you make models for it? Says Rocket Man. No, you can't. But they've got pretty wide range. You know, all the sort of usual suspects like AC30s, you know, Fender Deluxes, Bassmans, and all that stuff. And then there's like, you know, high gain 5150 and HB, and all that good stuff. Plexis and JCM 800s. Have I ever played a good cell amp? I have not, actually. I've never tried one. They look nice, though. Bella for pedal platform, good as it looks. Yeah, it definitely is. The Bella is like just an amazing sounding amp overall. It's such a beautiful sounding amp. Clean platform that you can push a little bit, you know, with the boost and stuff. But yeah, that amp sounds amazing. So the three-way bright switch on the Bella is really the key to making it work with pedals, because you can it's got this, you know, highly tuned bright situation, so that if you've got an overdrive that doesn't respond well with amps that are too bright, you know, too aggressive of a bright cap or whatever, you can always just turn the bright off on the Bella, or different stages of, you know, really fine tune it to your pedals, I think, and so that makes it really work well. Let's see. Somebody says stomp box or fractal axe. I think you're asking between the two, like the amplifier box or the fractal. I mean, they're so different in sort of functionality and versatility. You know, one's a simple stomp box that you can have 2 amp models in. The other one's like a full-blown. It's like 2 different ends of the spectrum. It depends what you need, I would say. I guess the thing that I really liked about the amplifier box is that it's so simple, and it's basically got what you need to do most things. So if you want to get deeper, yeah, you'd be better off, you know, probably Kemper or you know, some sort of Axe Effects, you know, where you can get deeper into programming and all that. But if basically what you're looking for is a couple good amp sounds, and that's what you need, then, and super portability, it works great. Okay, sorry if I'm missing questions here because they're coming in fast, so I'm just trying to... oh, somebody's on there from JD from Venezuela. That's cool. Love that there's people from all over the place. Have I tried any of the new Supro amps? A little bit, yeah. I love those amps, actually, and I would like to have one. They're so different than, you know, what, say, my PT100 does or something. And I'm a big fan of the folks doing it, the Pigtronics folks. They're also the ones that are doing the Supro, you know, they're really, really smart people, and they're doing it right, I think. So it's definitely a cool thing, the Supros. Let's see. Yeah, somebody else is saying if you're having any latency, just reload, refresh the page. And Joe Moore is in Edmonton. What's up, homie? Okay, so let's talk about something else. I don't know what. Amp model are good for live. No guitar amp. Not sure what that means. Straight into the input of a mixer channel. You can use that thing either way. You can use it into a power amp, disable the speaker sims, like most modelers, I guess. You know, like most of them, you can disable the speaker simulation, plug it into a power amp, or the effects return of a guitar amplifier, and then run through a traditional guitar cabinet. Or you could plug the thing into, you know, right into the house PA system. Favorite songs in Drop D I might be missing out on. First thing that came to mind was Dogman by King's X. Try and learn the riff to that. It's the coolest guitar riff. It's so like unique and kind of funky, and yeah, Dogman by King's X. Love his writing and the way that he's not just playing on the low strings, playing drop D. He's moving up to chord voicings on the G string and the B string, tie tabor, and kind of like doing this alternating thing between playing the low heavy riffs and then like stabbing these like chords that are up on the high strings, and it's so cool to me how he does that. And then the bridge section is cool too, like how the rhythm kind of gets turned around and juxtaposed. It's just really creative. I love Ty Tabor. I think he's awesome. Well, let's see. Somebody, Mikhail says, which pedal am I talking about? I was talking about the Atomic Amplifier box, and it's the latest demo video on my channel, if you want to check it out. Really, really cool. Somebody else says, what do I practice to improve my sound? That's Marwan says, what do I practice to improve my sound? And I'm wondering if you mean like tone or, not really sure what. I mean, if you're talking about sort of the sound that your hands make, I would say, well, the number one thing I would say is playing to time of some sort is really helpful, and playing to a metronome and learning how to play like in the middle of the beat, pushing it, and then behind as well. and then just getting really solid with your time and being able to play aggressively or a little bit softer, but having control over that stuff, you know, no matter what the tone that you're working with is, the basic tone, playing in time and playing, you know, having control over the groove and stuff like that. It's like people sort of, it transcends like whatever the guitar tone that you've got is, and it just sounds cool. Like, you know, I hope that makes sense. I don't know, but always playing with like a drum machine or practicing with a metronome, practicing with grooves and making sure you're laying into the time. That's the number one thing to me, to like sounding better. Because that's a thing where I get lost right away if I realize a guitar player doesn't really have a command of time or groove or feel. You know, so that's the number one thing. How was GitCon? It was amazing, Fubar says. It was actually amazing. I didn't know what to expect going there. So the GitCon thing, in case people don't know what it was, or, you know, it was basically an experiment. It was a whole bunch of guitar players that are also people that do stuff on YouTube like this. And they thought they would get us all together in, you know, somewhere in the far east of Germany, basically the Warwick Framus factory. Those are the folks that hosted it. And they'd put us up for a week and just see what happened, kind of make content basically for YouTube. And so there were some manufacturers there as well. I didn't really know what to expect. I flew into Nuremberg, and then I had to drive about 2.5 hours, rent a car. So I had a flight from LA to Paris, and then I had a connection flight from Paris to Nuremberg, and I had a 2.5 hour drive out into the, you know, far east of Germany to get to where Warwick Framus is and stay, you know, the hotel and stuff like that. So by the time I got there, it was like nighttime, and I'm literally driving through the middle of nowhere in Germany. I've never driven in Europe, so just the going was, I was a little like apprehensive about the whole thing. Like, I hope I can just find my way and I don't get lost in the middle of Germany or something in the middle of the night and jet lagged. But luckily, with modern navigation, stuff like that, it was easy, and it was super fun. It was like, the interesting thing about the GitCon thing was that doing these YouTube videos, it's like this. It's like me sitting here alone doing stuff generally, and I do all my own editing. I do everything in a room alone generally when I'm working on these things. It's not often that I'm like collaborating, but getting together with a whole bunch of other people that do this kind of stuff, and then saying, hey, let's make a video of this or that, or like, what do you think about this? Like, can I interview you, or can I do a guitar lesson with you? And then like they go, yeah, sure, and then you'd schedule time, get together and do it, and you'd knock it out in like an hour. And to me, it felt like being in a band with people, like collaborating. You know, it's like, oh, you kind of get things done faster. You're sort of on the top of your game because you don't want to waste other people's time, and you're bouncing ideas off each other and getting things done. It's like I'd never done that with YouTube, where it was like we're making videos, but we're collaborating on it and doing it at kind of like a, you know, quick pace, keeping it going. Not so much worried about everything being absolutely perfect. You know, some of the videos that have come out of GetCon that sound is like the one I did with Phil X. My guitar is distorting in it, like actually clipping, you know, and that was because we were moving so fast. But it doesn't matter really, because the content is so good and honest, and like we're just like riffing off one another, and so stuff like that. It was just like this. It was like, wow, and you know, I think people, like viewers, have responded like, wow, this is the coolest thing, because it's like a good chemistry and good, you know, people see it out there. It was just like, we'd finish, you know, doing like an hour of shooting or whatever, and be like, that was great. Like, there was a ton of good stuff in there, I think. And then you'd watch it back later and go, God, I forgot about that part and that part, and you know, and just the fact that I'm sitting there with those other people like Phil and Tom Quayle, and he's like, I'm getting a free guitar lesson the whole time, basically, too, which was incredible. So anyway, GitCon, it was great. Definitely want to go back. And I had a really terrific time, made new friends. Everybody was so nice. You know, it was nice to meet all these people. Somebody says hi from Greece. Hello. I like Greece very much. God, I haven't been there in a long time. 2007 was the last time I was there. Had great memories from Greece, playing with Chris Cornell. We were opening for Robert Plant. And I remember doing our show, which was really fun, at an outdoor festival, and then sitting out in front of the barricade and getting to watch Robert Plant like 20 feet away from me. Really, really nice memory of Greece. Quilter Microblock. I have not tried that. Somebody's saying I should, Paulie saying check out the Quilter Microblock. I haven't tried it, but I know those things get a lot of love, a great reputation. Something that I should definitely try. Okay, what else here? Somebody says, what do I think about Troy Grady and pick slanting? That's from Ian. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Send me an email or something, and I'll check it out. I haven't checked it out. What do I do to? Here's a good question, actually. Somebody says, what do I do to avoid overuse of my hands as a busy professional? I've had a lot of problems with my hands, actually, over the years. Um, you have to be careful, because it's like one wrong thing that you do can really bugger you up for like the next couple months or even longer, and it seems to take a long time to heal. But luckily they've been really good the last few years. I have a thyroid problem, so I have to take medication for my thyroid. It's underactive or whatever. So, and before that, it was around 2014, I think, when I discovered that. And before that time, I was having a lot of problems with almost like it felt like what people call fibromyalgia, like where, or maybe arthritis, where there's a lot of pain and kind of stiffness in the morning, and like your joints are swelling and stuff. That sucked. It was like, and it just felt like weak, and like my joints were popping and stuff. It was a drag. Like, it was anxiety provoking before gigs sometimes and stuff, where it was just creating some problems. But that all seemed to resolve once I figured out the thyroid issue and started taking the right, it sucks because I got to take a pill every day basically, but for the rest of my life. But I have had issues, and you just have to be careful and not overdo it. And warm up stuff is good. My friend John Button, bass player, is playing with the Who now. He's got these great things where he puts his hand against the wall and kind of does these stretches like this way and then these things. He's always got that because he had some problems. He went to a physical therapist or a sports medicine person or something, I think, and they showed him some good stretches. So there's some good stuff out there online to do, but you just got to figure out your own thing that works. Is Phil X always the crazy dude we see online? He seems like he would be fun to hang with. He's so fun to hang with, and you know what? He's a sweet guy. He's super high energy, and he's definitely kind of, yeah. I mean, he's the person you basically. I mean, he probably cranks it up a little bit for when he knows he's doing something on camera, but that's basically his energy. He's a really good dude. He's a good example of like work hard, stay in it long enough, and good things come. As long as you're like positive and you're the kind of person other people, want to be around, like because he's so so much fun, and then he really brings it, obviously. Super talented. Favorite guitar tuition DVD. It's been a long time since I've watched, but like the ones I grew up with were like Steve Morse. There was one called, oh god, I can't remember. It's the one where he shows how to play too many notes. But there's so much good stuff in that DVD. Like as far as like, alternate picking stuff, and what else did I watch? I watched all the Paul Gilbert stuff. The intense rock stuff, and that made my playing go from like at least my alternate picking chops and my accuracy went from here to like here, like 6 months watching those. And I can never quite do it like him, obviously. Who can? He's crazy. But it definitely, like, following some of those things really helped my accuracy and my technique. I really like some of the Robin Ford stuff that's out. That's more, I guess he's got DVDs out. There was a lot of books out that I had that had CDs, when there was, oh God, I can't remember what they were called. It's one that's got there's a blues in it called Rumba Blues, and anyway, some of the Robin Ford stuff you can't go wrong with Robin Ford. It's just to kind of like play melodically and play interesting stuff. Maybe even within a blues context. Well, that's one thing I really like about Robin is he's so listenable. It doesn't sound like rehashed blues licks. He's got such a wide vocabulary that it's like, oh, that sounds cool. It's like fresh and so musical when he's playing. So he's really amazing. Have I played a Mesa Boogie Triple Crown? I have not, or Silver Jubilee reissue. I've never played a Silver Jubilee reissue, but I've played old ones back in the day. I always kind of liked it. It's pretty cool. The Triple Crown I have not tried. It looks like a really nice amp. I guess I should stop by Mesa and try it and see what the competition's doing. Make a demo of the Amp 1 from Blue Guitar. I talked to that fellow last year at NAMM, and I would love to. seems cool. That as well as the his cab sim pedal. I think that's not the amp. I think the amp one's the all-in-one amp thing, right? It's got amp sounds in it, and then he's got a cab sim thing that's just an IR host, so it looks pretty cool. So Whip Jr. says Henning is a nut. He is a nut. He's cool though. I've grown to actually really like that guy. He's nutty, but he's highly intelligent. That's the thing. It's hard to keep up with him because he's, you know, get that guy talking about making videos or something, and he's on some other level about talking about, you know, video rendering or HD this or like whatever. I'm like, dude, I barely know how to turn on the camera like this right now. Barely know how to make it work. So let's see here. Can we see more Bella amp videos in the future? Yeah, I mean, I should use the Bella more probably, right? For some of the pedal videos and stuff. I set it up in my room, you know, the studio room, and I've got it sitting there, and I thought I can mic this up and do some stuff through this, like, but it's just kind of like, it's more difficult for me to do it that way for various reasons. I've got another room that I can put cabs in, and it's always easier to use like a head in the cabinet, but I guess I could use the Bella through an external cabinet as well. I don't know. It's just being in the room with the amp and micing it and stuff. It takes longer to try and figure out the tone and stuff. Somebody says iodine supplement for your thyroid. Yeah, I'm not sure about that actually. When you're actually on medication like Synthroid or whatever they call it for thyroid, I don't know if they recommend actually taking like iodine. I think there's some debate about that, whether or not it's a good thing to do. I think, in other words, if you're being medicated for a thyroid issue, they recommend staying away from some. I don't know. Should probably do more looking into it, but it's basically been stable for a few years. So, let's see here. What else do we have? The other problem I have is, because my eyes suck so bad, is floaters. So when I'm reading stuff like this small chat window here, it's like I don't know if you guys have that, but where the stuff floats in your field of vision, you know, and it's like part of your eyes because you're aging or whatever, and it gets, you know, those pieces like float around. It looks like hairs in your vision. So sometimes I'm like, I have trouble reading computer screens. Let's see. Rob Adams says, I use the Apollo for plugins and the pre's to mic amps and cabs. Sometimes I do, yeah. I use the pre's a lot in the Apollo, actually, in the virtual kind of mic pre's in the unison slots. I do use them. I've got a nice Neve pre. I mean, it's a BA, you know, that's got like 2 channels of 1073, basically. And I've got 2 microphone lines wired into that all the time. So generally, I'm like, it's just easy. I turn on the power switch for the BAE pre, and they're both feeding into one line. So in other words, I can mix, like, say, a ribbon mic and a 57 down to one line going in the computer. So 9 times out of 10, if I'm micing guitar cabs, I'm doing that because it's wired in. It's like I can blend a ribbon of 57. The mics are already set. Boom, just turn it on. And this is something that is really important. It's like you can get bogged down with experimenting real easy. And it's great to experiment, but it's like when I'm trying to get things done, like a lot of people ask me about my output, writing songs and stuff and doing songs for videos. One of the most important thing is having a streamlined output so that literally you can hit a switch and be tracking it apart within like maybe like 30 seconds or something. Okay, I want to play this amp through, this IR or whatever, or I want to play through that cab and get the mics up and going. You can be tracking. I mean, 30 seconds is maybe too quick, but maybe certainly within 5 minutes, I can be tracking like a part and have a cool tone and then move on to the next thing. So having that kind of streamlined flow. I saw Tim Pierce talking about that recently in a video as well, like saying like streamlining your thing so that you can basically get an idea going and down within like, so you don't even have to get up from your chair where you're sitting. And that's kind of Tim's, he really spearheaded that whole thing. He's very smart with setting up a studio environment that was extremely like path of least resistance or whatever to get from A to B. So I highly recommend that. So I don't experiment that much actually with mic pre's and stuff because it's like Neve, the Neve sounds 1073. It's going to sound great. You know it. I got the thing. Plug it in, get the mic set where they sound good, and then it's like you can just move on to making music. What else here? Let's see. Have I ever tried one of the Gibson Les Paul Access guitars? Well, I remember when they first came out. Yes, I have, and I remember when they first came out, and it was a Neil Schoen thing, and they were very expensive, those guitars, but it was cool, you know, like the cutaway. And I think Neil had some, you know, there was a falling out due to, um, you know, maybe the price of the guitars or something like that. And then, I'm not sure exactly politically what happened, but pretty soon after that, it became the Alex Lifeson model, very similar with like the cutaway and all that, and the you know, the heel was sculpted and stuff. And it was nice. They're nice. They're really cool. I worry a little bit about Floyd Rosenut on Les Pauls like that because there's so little wood up there at the top. So you start putting in even just screw holes or whatever. I don't know. It's a little risky, but whatever. I mean, they sound good. And so, okay. What else we got here? How do I survive jet lag? Says Rob. Dude, it is hard these days. Like, the older I get, it's just like, God. You just sort of get used to it, I guess, and you know what to expect, but it sucks. It's like, you know, you hit that 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon moment when you've traveled, you know, 8 or 9 hours into a different time zone, and just it's always in the afternoon when you're just like, ugh. And then you kind of tend to go past it at like 10 or 11 at night if you've made it that far. It's like, now I'm up again because it's probably morning wherever it was that you left. I don't know. I mean, I try and these days maybe take a nap when I absolutely have to, but you can't sleep longer. The key is you can't sleep longer than like 40 minutes. You know, like set your alarm for like 45 minutes and set it as loud as it'll go, and make yourself get up after you take that little sleep in the afternoon or whatever. Because if you don't, you go past it and sleep 2, 3 hours. Now you've just completely screwed up yourself for another day, and you're not going to get over the jet lag. Doing it that way. So, and the best thing too is get out. Like as soon as you hit a city, if you've traveled somewhere and you get there, generally you get to the hotel or something. It's, you know, 4 or 5 in the afternoon or something. You're just like, God, I need to sleep. Go out. Like just get out. Go get a coffee. Go for a walk. You know, grab a little like light meal. And one of the quickest ways to get over it, they say, is get on the eating schedule of wherever you're going really quickly. And sunlight's good, so get outside. And those are the things you can do. A lot of people have good luck with melatonin too. I don't. It makes me kind of weird. Like I feel like I get aggravated when I take melatonin. So I've taken it a couple times, and I don't. It doesn't really work for me. But some people seem to love it. Do I use a V-type in any amps or cabs? Well, I have a V-type in my V-type Celestion speaker in my Bella, because that's what they ship with, I do believe. It sounds really good, and I have a 112 with a V-type in it that sounds really good. That's a really good speaker, the V-type. I always liked it, like from the time, I've got a demo of it, like from 3 years ago when it came out or something. So you can check that out if you want to hear what I did with it, but it was in a 112, and it sounded really good to me. Like, it's not an expensive speaker, sounds kind of like a V30, but with less of that edge. And it's sort of maybe in between a greenback and a V30 or something. That's what it always sounded like to me. It's like, that's a good, usable, like, just really good, solid rock and roll speaker. Let's see. Dennis says, should we record in stereo or double tracking and panning? Well, it just depends on the part, really. Double tracking stuff is generally how I do a lot of stuff, but I know that it's cool sometimes to not double track. You listen to something like, say, the old Stone Temple Pilots records were really cool because I think, you know, probably had a lot to do with Dean, but he would avoid doing stereo double-tracked parts a lot. There'll be guitar panned hard in one side that sounds kind of like, almost like small or ratty or something playing a part, you know. And then when the chorus comes around, finally, there would be maybe a double or some complementary part on the other side. But it's cool to not always have the double-tracked thing coming, because it can start to sound kind of, even though there's stereo movement, it can start to sound kind of mono and like one dynamic. So when you can, if you can have a part to stand on its own, very much like Jimmy Page or something, you know, like cool part coming in over here, cool part coming in over there, in mono, different things kind of placed throughout the stereo field, you know, popping in and out of the tune. And, you know, it just makes it more dynamic and sort of shifts your brain as you're listening without even thinking about doing it. You know, it keeps the listener engaged, I think. Yeah, having said that, there's nothing like a stereo double-tracked part if you're trying to be heavy and just push the song forward, you know, like in the chorus or something in a heavy tune. Stereo can be cool, you know, if you're doing some big, spacious arpeggiated part and you've got a stereo chorus going or something, you know, you can just track it in stereo, or maybe like a Leslie thing or something. Maybe like you're doing like whole note, you know, big football chords or something with a Leslie kind of undulating, and that tracking in stereo can just sound amazing. Sitting behind, like to create a like a pad or a bed. So that's a cool thing. Sometimes there's nothing like hearing certain effects in stereo, and one of them is Leslie, where it's just that crazy spinning, you know, awesome thing. This depends what you're trying to do, really. Somebody says, can I demonstrate how to do the ending of Eruption with a delay pedal? I did the part 5 video of that How to Play Eruption series. I actually do that, I think. So 10 years ago, I think. But I mean, I'm using the Echo Park pedal, I think, from line 6 to, you know, hit the note. Basically, you got to hit the 6th string, and then you hit the harmonic, and then you roll off the volume on the guitar. So that's all you really need to know, is that you hit the low string, hit the harmonic, volume goes off on the guitar, okay? And you need to have enough delay going with a ton of feedback so that it keeps going. So that's the key. So hit the note, hit the harmonic, roll off the volume. Now you've got going like that, right? Because the feedback's like infinite. And then as you turn the time control on the delay to make it go longer, so say it's set at 300 milliseconds, now you want it to go out to like 600 milliseconds, and that's going to take the pitch down an octave as it's slowing down and diving. I hope that makes sense. But I did do sort of a video on it. So part 5 in the How to Play Eruption videos will show you how to do that. Let's see. Sean Pierce Johnson says, Henning is crazy. Dude has spent so much money on camera gear. You know, he really loves it. Like, I think he has that real affinity for the video part. Like good lighting and, you know, making it look great and everything. And it's like for me, it's like definitely the hobby part. And I don't know very much about it, but it is kind of interesting. He really likes it, I think. And that's why he, you know, really excels at it, because he's a very, very high functioning guy. And, you know, he's a smart guy, and he definitely seems to really enjoy like the best quality video and lighting and production that he can come up with. For me, I've got this thing about it where I almost feel like I shy away from making it too good, because it starts to, like in my videos where I'm demonstrating product or whatever, I feel like it looks like a commercial all of a sudden. I don't want it to look like a commercial. I want it to be like, hey, I'm just hanging out trying this piece of gear, and here's what it sounds like, and because that is what I'm doing, and I don't want it to seem like too perfect. You know, some glossy, like, you know, I don't know. It's okay if somebody else is shooting it, and like for example, I did a video for Ernie Ball pedal, the expression overdrive and delay pedals, and you know, they shot that beautifully and edited. I was doing the same thing. I played everything live in the video. It's amazing how I did it. I could tell you how I did it technically, but anyway, I went to their studio and actually played the parts live and all that. So you're seeing me do it. That was important to me, that I'm not like miming parts or whatever. I wanted to do it live, but they're shooting it, so them making it look really cool, and you know, they spent a lot of time with just the angle of the pedal so that the light was hitting it just right and everything. Like I just don't think about that stuff that much when I'm making my videos. It's more guerrilla style, you know, down and dirty. I think probably that's a good thing. I like to kind of keep it that way. Have ever planned to have my own band and touring around the world, says Thomas. Man, I would love to do that, at least in some capacity, and play more gigs and stuff. I just feel like I need to get another record out. That's the most important thing because I've really only got one album out. I mean, I've got a ton of music out there because of the videos and all that stuff, but one album isn't enough. You know, I need to get the second album out, and then now I've got like, you know, at least 20 songs I can draw from, and I can come up with a set, maybe do some covers, or so. You know, you need to have more, I feel like. And then I can go and play some more gigs, but really looking forward to doing that. And so, okay, let's see here. Somebody says, I love thornography. That's great, dude. Benjamin. Have I played Andy Wood's 24 fret telly, says Matthew. I have. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's his thing, you know. I think it's like, you know, it's a real modern neck, and you can really fly and shred on that thing. But it suits his style so well because, you know, he's kind of got a foot in the country world, obviously, and that whole thing, and then he's got a foot in, you know, high-tech kind of shred stuff. So it's really, it's a great instrument for for the type of folks that want to be able to do both of those things. And it's hard to find a 24 fret telly. That's the other thing. That's so it's a unique guitar, and I love that. I like that the Suhr guitars are all kind of unique and really reflect, like the Suhr signature models, I should say. They reflect the player's personalities, really, musical personalities, and also maybe their aesthetic sense and stuff in a really cool way. Okay, so, somebody says, do I know Satchel from Steel Panther? So, Satchel is Russ Parrish, and when I first went to MI, he was there, and he was 17, I think, and I was 18, 19 maybe, but he was 17, so he's younger than me, and he was a teacher. He'd been Paul Gilbert's roommate. I don't know if a lot of people know that or not, but he lived with Paul on Yucca Street in Hollywood. Maybe when Paul was at MI teaching or something, and then Russ was like a student. So he had some formative influence, from Paul, I'm sure. But he, at 17, was like, it was ridiculous. He was like those kids we see now on YouTube. It was like wailing. But he was, he's an interesting cat. I've known that guy for, going on, like, I guess, 28 years. Kind of crazy. I haven't seen him in a long time, but... I definitely go way back with him to some degree. How do you go over visualizing scales? I don't really. I don't know. I just sort of learned the modes, I guess, when I was a kid or whatever, and then, find my way around the neck, I guess. I don't know. There's a great lesson that I did that came out on my channel this week with Tom Quayle, where it's almost getting away from that, like less visualizing scales, more visualizing intervals. Maybe check that out, because I need to work on that more too. I loved his approach to thinking about the neck and kind of looking at the neck. If you know the root notes on the neck, and then you can just see the interval shapes as opposed to seeing a scale shape like a box. He's like, now you're thinking in a more musical way, because you're thinking about the root note and then the next interval that you're going to go to. It was really cool. So check that out if you have a second. I just thought it was a terrific guitar lesson. I had no idea what Tom was going to say when I asked him, like, tell us something to help improve our playing. And he came up with it was just kind of I felt like it was almost like a weak question, but he came up with the coolest answer in response to that. Let's see. Will I play at NAMM? I'm not really sure yet, actually, about that. I would love to. Those things kind of tend to come together in the last, like, month or, maybe 6 weeks before NAMM. Somebody says, my favorite guitarist of all time, living or dead, famous or not. Oh, man, it's too hard to pick a favorite. I mean, I've got my favorites that I've known in my life, like people like Ted Green and, some of my friends and stuff like that. And then there's just the pinnacle, like, Eddie Van Halen. And, I really, as I get older, I mean, it's like the ones that really hold my attention are Gilmour and Van Halen. To me, Van Halen's like the pinnacle of, I don't really like to hear more technique than that, if that makes sense. Like, he holds my interest all the time with his playing and his technical, like, where the level he's playing at technically and how technical he gets within a song. I never tune out. It's always got my interest. But anything beyond that, I find, and there can be incredible players with amazing technique and everything, but I tend to lose interest after about, like, it's amazing, but after like 45 seconds, I'm just tuning out. I want to hear more of the song or whatever. That never happens with Eddie to me. So he had that magic combo of musicality and, he knew when to dive back into the rhythm part, basically. And he could really play rhythm, too, like, so well that he didn't, it's not like the rhythm guitar suffered. He's just chugging on eighth notes or whatever until the solo comes along, and now here we go, I can really show off. It was like the whole song and the whole part was so interesting. So, he really comes to mind. Interval trainer, somebody says, from Calgary. Okay, what else? Somebody says, Johnny Monaco says, I remember those MI days. Oh, man, so do I. Definitely. Very well. Okay, who else we got here? Somebody says, thank you, sir. Can I read music? Somebody says, that's great question. Is it important for a guitarist to say? I think reading music, I'm a hack reader. I suck. basically. But I do think it's important, and like a lot of my friends that do, you know, movie sessions, or people like Lyle Workman. You know, if you really want to be like a super accomplished musician, then reading is a good thing. If you want to play in a band and, you know, be the edge or whatever and rock out in your own band or whatever, I don't know that it's that important. So it really just depends on what you want to do, I guess. But it can't hurt. Learning how to read music cannot hurt. It's only going to give you, at least, you know, with some degree of competence, it's only going to give you, it's like the difference between being able to speak a language and kind of speak conversationally and do okay at it, but you can't read and write. You know, it's going to limit you. Whereas if you can read the language, write the language, it's a much richer experience, right? It's a little bit like that with music, where you can communicate with other musicians. I feel like if you can read and write music and get your ideas across in a way that's different. I feel like I'm pretty deficient in that, and it's kind of like something I could definitely improve on. I just sort of lacked the interest in working on it. That's my problem. Like I don't know if any of you guys out there like experience that, but I really would rather be sitting there writing a song, you know, come up with some drums and then a cool guitar. That's what I love, like just writing songs and coming up with cool parts and then, you know, playing them down, getting a cool part or tone or whatever, and then hearing it all come back out of the speakers. That's the part where I really get jazzed. Sitting there and sort of practicing, like reading, I don't know, I have a hard time. That's like work to me. So maybe to my detriment, but let's see. Shaman Blues says for fans, YouTube fans, GitCon event was amazing. How do you guys feel about YouTube and the new way of relating to fans? Is it profitable? Can you monetize from it? Yeah, I mean, you definitely can. You know, you can reach people. You know, in ways now that you just couldn't before, and you don't need, like we're doing right now. You know, I don't need a middleman. Whatever. It's just Sunday morning. I can make a cup of coffee and sign on here. Talk to you guys, and we can like have a thing. So it's cool. I think we're still all figuring it out, and how like what's appropriate and what's not, what's beneficial and what's not. But there's no question that it's pretty cool to be able to reach so many people and do it all on your own, without, you know, the need to go sign a deal or hire some third, you know, party company or whatever to, you know, it's not necessary anymore. So it's kind of cool. Somebody says thanks for that recognition, or description rather, of EVH. He doesn't get enough recognition as a songwriter and rhythm player. Such a great rhythm player. Ton of great Billy Gibbons-esque stuff in Eddie's rhythm playing that I just love. You know, or you think about a part like Women in Love, right? Like, you know, I don't even know if I can remember it, but I'm not plugged in, but, you know, like the, you know, just those chords and the way he executes those things, like nobody was doing that in hard rock. It was so melodic, and, you know, it wasn't just eighth notes and playing power chords. It was like, that was just the first thing that came to mind, but like, it was so cool, like, just so musical and on another level, I think, for hard rock at the time. Anytime, really. Amp versus pedal distortion for heavy rock. Definitely amp always, if you can. Somebody else says, Dr. Z or divided by 13. I haven't played a lot of Dr. Z amps, actually, so I can't really like offer an opinion. I have played a bunch of divided by 13s. Fred is a friend of mine. He's a nice guy, and I have a lot of experience, so I've had good times with the divided by 13s for sure. And so yeah, with regards to the amp versus pedal thing, like which do I prefer for distortion? You just can't beat the dynamics of a tube amp, like in the high voltages and everything that tube amp is running at. It's like the pedal is always going to be some simulation of that sound. It's always a little flatter and not as dynamic. It doesn't respond quite like an amp to the volume control on the guitar and all that stuff. Just a distorted amp, like with all the parts working in harmony all together. You know, transformers, tubes, preamp, high voltage, all that stuff. It's just, there's no substitute, you know. But you can come close with pedals and stuff. I'm on this real kick these days about younger guitar players maybe not realizing that, and that the amp is kind of become a bit of an afterthought. You'll plug into any amp, and just as long as it's got a clean sound, that kind of works. Set it kind of quiet, and then, okay, there's the amp. Like the amp's the afterthought. And then, now what pedals do you use to get your drive, right? That's commonly everybody asks, what pedal are you using for drive? It's like, man, I didn't grow up like that. Like I grew up with, whatever, Marshall amps. Like, and the amp was distorted, and maybe you hit it with an SD1 or a tube screamer or a fuzz to augment the distorted amp sound and add to it. But it was just, to me, it was a way more sort of dynamic and, potentially unique and sonically explosive experience playing through a really good sounding amp. I did that, play a Plexi video, which some of you may have seen at GitCon, which it was almost over the top, like to have a little amp in a big amp in a small room is what I mean, cranked up on 10, and some people were like, well, they sound better on 8, and I was like, I know, but it just didn't sound as cool to say, play a Plexi on 8. It was like, no, play a Plexi dime, that was what I wanted to do. In retrospect, yeah, probably would have sounded better if the amp was on 7 or 8 as opposed to 10, but the point I was trying to get across is that and I don't know if I succeeded, but it makes you play differently, and the player plays off the amp, and it's this visceral kind of crazy, dynamic experience with the amplifier, and I don't think people are experiencing that as much these days, and I think that the amp has become a bit of an afterthought, and because of that, we've almost turned the guitar into like this equivalent of what a keyboard is, sonically. It's a sampled piano sound, or it's here's my B3 organ sound, but it's not like the same as playing like a real Hammond organ through swirling Leslie cabinets that are kind of loud and like quite loud and have that dynamic feel on stage. Well, it's the same thing when you turn a guitar amp down really, really low and get all your drive tone out of pedals and stuff. It's become kind of a simulation of what we used to do with, and I think it's maybe not as cool overall. It's got its own advantages, but so how did I hook up with Suhr guitars? Somebody says from Cleveland. It's Ed from Cleveland. My connection with Suhr was originally I bought one used on the gear page, and it was coming from Philly or something, and it came all the way across the country. It looked like a nice guitar, and it was a good deal, so I bought it. It was a classic. It's the one that's in the How to Play Eruption videos. That was my first Suhr, and so I bought it. It showed up. I pulled it out of the case and I started playing it, and it played so good. I was going, damn, this guitar is beautiful. It's all I could have hoped for, for ordering a guitar secondhand from somebody across the country. So I hadn't even plugged it in yet, but I was just sitting there playing it acoustically. And I played it for like 45 minutes, and then I hit a big chord, and I realized like it's perfectly in tune, and I had not tuned it. Like I pulled it out of the case, and it came in tune, and then I played it for a while, and it was still in tune. I was like, this is a good guitar. So that was my first exposure to Suhr, and then I think I had heard about the Badger amps or something, and I contacted the company and said, hey, I was playing with like, I think I was like touring a Jewel or something at the time, and I contacted them and said, hey, I'm Pete Thorn or whatever, I might want to use one of your amps on tour if I've heard about this amp, sounds cool. So they're like, oh, come out and meet us and stuff and hang out because you're in California. So I did. I went and met them. They turned out to be really awesome people. And, long story short, John's like one of my best friends now. So it just was a cool serendipitous kind of thing that started very organically with me actually, buying a guitar from another person secondhand and really loving it. So that's how it came about. Let's see. What's next? Holy cow, 444 watching. I know it's up to 458 now. I'm super excited about that. I hope people dig this format, and I'll keep going, dude. I'm going to go for another 10, 15 minutes or so and then stop at like just over an hour, I think. But anyone use Naylor amps, says Benjamin. Naylor's that's Super Drive 60 amp. It's a classic. I mean, and I know like some great guitar players that really love that amp. I never owned one, but I always thought it sounded really, really good. Terrific sounding amp. Tim Pierce loves that amp. Let's see. I've done great videos. This is Nicholas. Says I've done great videos on the Helix and AX8. Wondering if I have a preference. You know what, man? I didn't actually do the AX8. I did the FX8. But easy mistake to make. I know, but it was only the one with the effects built in. And I thought it was great. That thing sounds great. The effects in it are terrific. I've never tried an AX8, to tell you the truth. So, but I know a lot of people like James Ivani and stuff. He's got one and loves it and uses it. And think Andy Wood uses one quite a bit. You know, it seems like a really, really terrific device. The Helix, for me, I've got one right here at my feet on my small pedal board here. It's worked out great. I don't know, I love the editor and I love the simplicity of it. It's just worked out terrific, and I'm kind of using it in a hybrid way with either an amp or with the Kemper sometimes. And it's, you know, no dig on the Helix models. It's just the Kemper. I have my PT100 profiles in it that I made myself, so I'm very comfortable with them. So I figured out a way to hook them both up together in kind of a 4-cable thing, and I feel like it's just that's the rig that I came up with, and I like it. So pretty good. Have I tried the Synergy gear yet, says Wayne? A little bit. I've tried the little preamp, the desktop one, and it is cool. And it basically works as advertised. You can add like a third channel to, say, an amp with an effects loop, and it works quite well. Haven't really tried the other stuff in that line. But let's see. Why is the plexi so hard to sound good on at first? I'm not sure what that means. Somebody asked me. Oh, I think I know what you mean. You're asking why is it hard to, like, with a plexi to, like an old Marshall style amp cranked up, why is it hard to get a good sound at first before you get used to playing it? It's such a loud, dynamic, kind of monstrous thing that you have to practice playing one of those amps. And all your mistakes kind of get revealed, and there's not a ton of front end gain going on. So it's like I find with the more preamp saturation and high gain, it covers up mistakes and makes it easier to play. You can kind of flub a note, but it'll still come through, if that makes sense, kind of because it's so compressed and stuff when you've got a ton of preamp gain. The plexi's just as loud, you know, by modern standards. It's not that dirty. It's dirty, but, you know, and it's loud. So anything that you do wrong is, you know, poke right out. But when you get good at it, it's like when you get the control and stuff, then that translates as dynamics and, like, just kind of exciting, I think. So it's just a matter of getting used to playing that sound, I think. It's always kind of felt like home for me, though, because I started out playing on lower gain amps, I guess. Opinion of John Petrucci. John's amazing. I mean, you know, what he's done, like, who else is, you know, you got to remember with John and Dream Theater and stuff, they came up through a time when there wasn't anybody else playing that kind of stuff. Like, guitar solos were out. Prog kind of, you know, or you know, any kind of metal with like a lot of guitar. There wasn't barely anybody doing it. It was like, it was grunge had taken over, and it was like not cool to do that stuff. So you got to hand it to folks like John and stuff for continuing. He was the one of the only people in the '90s that was doing, you know, essentially technical prog metal that had a lot of shred element in it, and they carried right on through and sort of forged their own. Like I had a lot of respect for that. I don't listen to a ton of that music, but I have seen. We played with Dream Theater. Played the same venue as the Chris Cornell band in Israel in 2009, and they played the night before. So I stood on the side of the stage, and that's the only time I've seen Dream Theater live. But it was really fun, you know, to go see. They had like 7,000 people there, and did a great show, and I enjoyed that. Let's see, what else we got here. Do I want to sell my PT100 profile? Not right now. I really don't. I have weird feelings about that, like making profiles and then selling them. First of all, you know, I am in the, like, I've got a signature amp. So, you know, it's like, I feel like, well, if I did that, then nobody wants to buy my amp anymore, basically, right? It's like if you just did. I've got a real love-hate with the Kemper, and there's been some good debate about this, where it's like, because I still love amps and stuff, and I have a Kemper and I use it. I think it's great, but it's like if everybody just profiles amps, and then, you know, there's this new set. There's a good like, is it ethical to, like, you know, there's a ton of R&D put into that amp and everything. Now it's almost like when. I remember Neil Peart talking about people sampling his drum sound. Like, I'll go in the studio and I'll work for like a week to get a great drum sound, and then I cut a record with it. Somebody will just go sample my snare sound, and then they'll use it. And he was like, I get that. It was a dilemma there, you know. I don't know. I'm where I'm at on it, to tell you the truth. But have I heard of White Denim? No, I haven't. Should I be checking that out? Favorite compressor pedal currently? I always really like this. I've got a GC2 from Keeley on my board here, and I love that pedal. I've loved it since it came out. It's so easy. It's just a 3-knob compressor. Keeley, you know, they're well known for doing great compressors, and they seem to really get that style of effect It's just so simple. So basically the ones I've used in the past few years are the Keeley, the Surkoji, the Kali 76, which I think is really terrific. I especially really like the big one. It's just so big that it's like, you know, hard to, but I love there's something about it. It's just so easy to use, with great big knobs and everything, the big LEDs that go on it. It's really cool. And it sounds great for that transparent kind of like just always on better kind of compressor, you know, pushing the amp into a bit of drive with a great compression. It's comfortable to play, and so the Kali is great. I like the Wampler Ego compressor too, the little mini one. I'm redoing a board pretty quick here, my main board, and I might use that on there. See if I can get away with doing the mini compressor just to save space. Ease of configuration, somebody says, this is from Joe, takes a back seat against sound. I would agree with that. I love the, you know, the sound overall. Somebody says, please grow your hair out and ditch the earrings. Okay, wait, let me think. No. There we go. That's my answer to that. Dude, once you go short hair after, you know, here's the thing with hair. I'm sure a lot of you out there feel this. If you're my age, maybe a little younger, a little older. It's like the long hair thing beyond a certain age doesn't work for me. I don't know. It's a pain in the ass, and it's like you start looking like I don't want to look like an old rock guy. I really don't. I want to look like I look now, basically. You know, I want to. It's just like trying to live that dream in like the '80s. I don't know. I mean, I'm cool with, like, people can look however they want. This just works for me. Okay, newer tone match made by myself on the Axe 2. Yeah, I haven't talked to the Axe Effects people in a long time. Maybe they're mad at me. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I haven't talked to them a lot in the last few years. So I just haven't done anything with them for like 3 years or something at least. No, I don't know. We just fell out of touch or something, or maybe I'm pissed off that I've used other things or stuff. I have no idea. But I have a total respect for them, and they're great products. You know, honestly, I think it's terrific stuff. There's so many options out there. Somebody says, thoughts on Pau Ferro fingerboard. I think Pau Ferro is cool. I don't really have a perspective on Pau Ferro and how it would be that much different sounding than Rosewood. That's a really good question for sure. But I really like the way it looks. And it feels good too. I think the Red Beach guitars were always Pau Ferro. And I just think of it as kind of like Rosewood, but I could be off base. Like a more figured Rosewood. How old am I? Oh, I'm not telling. Somebody asked how old I am. I don't want to talk about it. It's depressing. So, yeah, somebody says, Showman Blue says he knows how I feel about old rock. He knows what I'm saying about old rock guys. Yeah, it just gets to a point where you get above a certain age, and I just think it looks better when you can still be rock and roll or whatever, and like, but just growing your hair out. I mean, you know, I did it until like 2015. I had like my hair down to here or whatever, and at some point I was like, this is a pain in the ass, and I was apprehensive about chopping it off. And then I did it, and I was like, oh my god, why didn't I do this like 2 years ago? It felt so much better, and and a lot of people were like, dude, you look younger, like, so. There was no downside to me. Somebody says, dude, how old are you talking about being the old rock guy? Well, as old as me, you know. If I was like long hair right now, I would feel like I was, I don't know. I just, you know what I mean? I don't want to tell you how old I am, but. Okay, what else we got here? Let's get back on guitar stuff. Who cares about hair? I thought about starting a, I'm going to get away with this idea now, but I thought about starting like an Instagram page or something. We could call it like male hair critique. And when somebody else, because I think it's weird when other dudes that are like probably middle-aged say, I don't like your hair. So I thought about, well, I'm going to go all the way with it then. I'll start an Instagram, and we'll like just post pictures of each other's hair or whatever, and we can go on there and like, oh, this guy's got a bad haircut, you know. It's like, because it's almost weird to me. It's like, I don't know, it's funny. If we're going to do it, then let's do it. That's my point, is when people are like, I don't like your hair now, you need to do this. I'm like, well, you post a picture of your hair so that I can critique yours, and then we'll be on the same playing field. Yeah. All right. Enough about this. H9 or Mobius for modulation. They're both really good. The Leslie in the H9 is killer. And in the Mobius, it's good too. It's, you know, same as in the Lex, I guess. Choruses in the in the Mobius always strike me as sounding really, really good. This sort of C1, C2 style stuff is really good. And the flanger in the Mobius, I was able to basically nail the EVH flanger MXR sound. So close that it was like I was going back and forth, and I was like, that's pretty damn. I couldn't do that with any other digital box. I couldn't get that close. So I really like the Mobius, but they're both great. Let's see. Julio says, what's my favorite Soundgarden song? It's really hard to pick, but I love a lot of his... It's hard, man. I mean, the ones that come to mind, I could pick like a top 5, but it's probably like 4th of July, and I like the super moody stuff like Zero Chance, and, you know, Overfloater. I don't know. I like that kind of like, you know, more album-y tracks, I guess. Yeah, those are 3 that come to mind. But I mean, there's just a ton of them that I love. You know, Slaves and Bulldozers, as far as like the heavy thing, was the most. I have to say, probably the most fun one to play live. Like, yeah, as far as that kind of like just balls out rocking, that was always super fun. So okay, what else we got here? A few more questions, and I'm going to go for today. So, congrats on 100K subscribers. Thank you. How long did it take to get to, like, to 1,000K, 10,000K, 50,000K? So this is questions about YouTube subscribers. It's funny, the 50,000 mark, I remember hitting not that long ago. I was leaving Tim Pierce's house, and I happened to look at my YouTube on my phone, and it was at 50,000. So, I mean, we were doing a Tim and Pete show. We've only been doing it for a couple of years, if that. So, it didn't take very long to get from 50 to 100, I guess. Maybe, I'd have to look, but it was a year and a half or 2 years or something maybe. But before that, to get to 50 was like 9 years on YouTube. So it takes a while. But it doesn't take a while for everybody. You know, I've met a lot of these people like Leo from Frog Leap at GetCon, like his channel. You know, he's got over 2 million plus subscribers, and he's been doing it for 3 years. So it just depends. If you hit on something that people want to see, it can grow super fast. If you find that it's not really moving that quickly, like maybe you need to change your approach, I guess is what I've come up with. Like I'm starting to realize like the type of videos that people want to see more, and the other ones that maybe aren't going to get as many views, but you want to do them anyway. Like, you know, I don't know. The main thing with the YouTube thing is come up with something that other people aren't doing. Do it in a unique way. Come up with your own sort of personality and your own format, and you know, and then I think it's the results. What is the one skill that separates the amateur from the pro player? I would say listening to other musicians, knowing when not to play is probably the major thing. Like basically really tuning in. You know, when you sense that another musician's really listening to the other players, and they know when to step back, and then they know when to step out, step forward, and turn the volume up and lay into it, and then that kind of, it's like an intangible thing, but you know, that's the most important thing. When somebody's not trying to show off all the time or just play loud and not listening to the other players, that to me is that's the mark of the amateur or whatever. When you can tell that they're not really tuned in with playing with the group. Because ultimately, you're trying to make a musical statement altogether, right? So trying to listen to the other players and get locked into that whole thing, and then knowing when it's your time to step up, that makes the music really dynamic and sounds like professional, I guess, to me. Anyone plan for the next Tim and Pete show? Yeah, we've got people on deck for sure. Some really cool stuff. It's just finding the time to do it again. So there will be more to come for sure. Somebody says, tell us about the vintage Marshall. Yeah, I just got the 72 Marshall that I bought off of a guitar forum on Facebook. And I love the thing. It's got a really aggressive bright cap in it, so it kind of wants to rock all the time. Like I used it in the video for the amplifier box, and listening to it sits great in the mix. It sounds good, but it's almost a little too bright, and that's that bright cap in that amp. Still good sound, and it cut through the mix and sounded really cool. But I might play with the value of the bright cap. It's such an easy thing to do. But basically, the amp, as you guys probably know, many of you, when you've got a bright cap on the volume control, the further you turn down the volume, the more that bright cap is active. And on old Marshalls, sometimes it can be a little ice picky anywhere down below 5. If it's got kind of an aggressive bright cap in it. But up above 5, as you're turning it up, the bright cap is getting mixed out of the signal. and you know, if the amp hits 6 or 7 or 8 on the dial, and all of a sudden it just sounds fat and awesome, with still a little bit of the effect of that bright cap in there at like 7 or 8, and it just makes it aggressive and cool. So it's like a fine line, basically. I think the amp's got no clean in it right now. It wants to rock all the time at anywhere above like 3 or 4. It's just balls out. So we'll see what I end up doing with it. But it's an amazing sounding amp. Sounds terrific. Friedman saw it and looked at it and goes, "There's nothing you could do to this amp to make it better. It's exactly what you want." So it was a really cool find. Let's see, a couple more thoughts on the Vox AC30 channels. Top boost, normal, or both linked together. What are the pros and cons of each? Top boost is great, but difficult with pedals. But it can sound just like what you need for, you know, that chimey Vox thing without needing anything else. So I'll tend to use the top boost channel if I'm just running some delay or echo or something. I'm not going to run any other drives. The normal channel in an AC30 works great with a lot of overdrive pedals. So depending on, you know, just what you use in your rig and stuff like that. That's kind of how I think about AC30s. What else? Best harmonizer pedal for Eagles covers with one guitar. I used the H9. I used to play Witchy Woman with Don, and also Witchy Woman, and one of these nights I used the harmonizers in the H9. I had to kind of program the harmonies in one of these nights. Isn't like, it's not like static thirds or whatever. It's like it kind of moves the intervals. It's fourths at 1 minute or something. I can't remember. But so I had to program 2 presets actually, and then bounce between the 2 to be able to play the harmonies correctly. But it works. Hard to beat Eventide for harmonizers. You know. Let's see. Suggestions for single coil pickups in between a pair of Thornbuckers. I would say like if it's going to be on a SUR, like the ML or the V60 LP, hard to go wrong. ML. I really like the ML Classic, like the more vintagey one. It's a little less hot, I think, than the standard. And I love V60 LPs. Just a terrific sounding pickup. That's what I have in almost all my SURs. What do I request or prefer when needing to use a backline amp for a venue? It would depend on what I was doing so greatly, because there's different types of rigs I use these days. If I had to request an amp and go in and use pedals, I would probably ask for maybe like a 59 bassman. I really like those, like the Tweed 410 bassmans. They're not too bright. They tend to work really good with a lot of different pedals. And that would be a good set, like a decent bassman that's working is a good thing. You know you're going to be able to get a decent sound out of it with some pedals. Some of the other amps that might show up, like for example, Twins, just real loud and clean, can work. But Deluxe Reverb maybe a little underpowered for a lot of stages. A bassman just at around 40 watts and without too aggressive of a brake cap or whatever situation on the volume control. It's a good pedal amp. Okay, guys, almost time to go. Somebody says, thinking about getting a Bogner Ecstasy. What are my thoughts versus a PT100? Well, Reinhold's a friend of mine. I don't want to obviously my preference is the PT100. The Ecstasy has a lot of fans though, and I did own one in the 90s. I had an original, 101B or whatever, and it was a good amp. I'll just say, like the PT100, basically, the thing I love about it is there's no compromise on that clean sound and the dirty sounds. It's just like terrific sounding clean channel, terrific sounding drive side with 2 gains, 2 masters. They both sound great, and it's easy to dial in. It's just got enough controls to where the thing's not hard. You can put almost all the controls on 5 and start there, and then dial it in. And within 10 or, it really is a kind of amp where if you've never played it before, within about 10 minutes, you're going to have your sound dialed in, whatever it is that your sound is. I feel like it's that simple. It's not that hard to. So I love that. Like, it's versatile, but simple. Tips on learning songs by ear. Get a good phrase trainer. I use Transcribe from, I think the company's called 7th String that makes the software. And you'll see why it's cool. But it's a phrase trainer you load MP3s into. You can slow down the music without changing the pitch. You can also isolate parts, and it's got a kind of karaoke thing where you can take out the middle channel and just hear the parts on the outside. It's just really good. So I would say getting a good phrase trainer where you can loop sections of a wave or an MP3 and really hone in on a part. Do I own any super strats? Well, yeah, I mean, I have all kinds. This even my, this is pretty much super stratty, right? It's got a non-locking Floyd on it, and I mean, doesn't have the lock nut on it, but it's got the no fine tuner version, is what I should say. Humbucker in the bridge, that's super strat, I would say. I have others, for sure. I mean, I guess in a way, my PT100 guitar is sort of a super strat. PT100 guitar. Pete Thorn signature Sir guitar. We didn't call it the PT100 guitar. Okay, what else? What else? What band or artist am I currently listening to? That's a good question. I already talked about this in the last one of these I did, but Chelsea Wolfe is so amazing. And people were like saying, "Oh, she's not a good guitar player" on a forum or whatever. So I went and listened to her music. I'm like, "Oh my god, actually, she's amazing," and I just like her music a lot. So that's really cool stuff. What else? I don't know. It's the only thing that comes to mind right now for new stuff that I've been listening to. Okay, there's this band called The Night Game that is like, they sound like, John Suhr was playing me some old Go West the other day, like 80s, 80s kind of like, it's pop, but it's like pretty technical in a way. And I said, have you heard this band, The Night Game? They sound like this, it's like they're a new band doing super melodic sounding, basically pop-based music, but it's on a kind of a high, almost like Mr. Mister or something from the 80s. And I think they're going to like blow up huge because it's got that, you'll hear if you go listen to, they have a song called The Outfield, and it sounds like great 80s kind of rock pop music. But it's, a bunch of dudes probably in their 20s or something making it. Gated snares and the whole deal, I'm just into it right now because it sounds like, reminds me of those days of, also it gets away from that sort of millennial whoop kind of bullshit that I'm just like, I can't hear that anymore, like in pop music, just the, the big gang vocals and the tons of reverb and all that, and the kind of wee shit that's been, dominated it's just crazy to me that it's like one sound that's gone on for a number of years now, and we're ready for something else, I think. So The Night Game, check them out. Kind of interesting. Even if you're not into that kind of music, it's kind of fun to hear something that's done so well on such a high level that, great songs, super melodic, that you won't be able to get the chorus out of your head, and it sounds like the 80s, it's kind of fun. What else? What do I think of Derek Trucks as a guitar player? He's like otherworldly and absolutely amazing, and I'm in awe. Gord Downie stories. I don't really have any Gord Downie stories. I confess I missed the boat, completely on the hip. Being from Canada, I should know more, but I moved in '90 to LA, and so they really came to prominence in the '90s, and I just kind of missed the boat on them. But I was so moved last year by the whole concert tour they did, and I started watching a bunch of stuff and learning more about them, and realizing like, wow, this guy is really an interesting artist. And watching the last shows was like, man, I mean, I was blown away. I've never seen anything quite like that. I mean, talk about, I think, between Bowie and his, the Black Star album, and the way the videos he made and everything for it, and kind of leaving us in the way he did, and then Gord, that with the shows, and we got to see him, kind of winding it down, literally, and it was like, I've never seen anything like that. An entire country kind of like almost mourning someone's, situation. It was just so crazy, but really amazing to see the whole country, including the Prime Minister, obviously get behind him and just sort of be there. What else could you? I mean, death's a difficult thing, and it's like, I guess we don't talk about it. And in our culture a lot, in Western culture and stuff, it's just not something we talk about. So when you're faced with it and you're dealing with it like that, and you're talking about it and facing it head on, it feels like very heavy. And so, but what a beautiful thing. I don't know, the way that he did it and the way that they chose to honor him, do that last tour. It's kind of like the best case scenario almost in a terrible situation. That's the way I felt about it. I was knocked out by it. It was a heartbreaking but beautiful thing. So. Thoughts on LA blues scene, like Kirk Fletcher and Josh Smith? Well, both those guys are. I mean, Kirk is just amazing. Josh is amazing. They're amazing, and I consider them both friends, and mentors, because when I watch them play, I'm just like, oh my God, I would love to be able to do that someday. Kim Mitchell being Canadian, did he influence me? Dude, I love Kim Mitchell. I mean, I was like a big Kim fan, and as a guitar player, and also just his, he was just fun, you know. He's like he's a national treasure, you know. I loved Kim. I've seen Kim live like at least 2 or 3 times, and I love that he's still out there and doing. I think he's still doing a radio show in Toronto and everything, right? He still goes out and plays, and he's awesome, you know. Just a super cool. Have I ever met Eddie Van Halen in person? Yes, Ed's a friend of mine actually. I consider him a pretty good friend. He's a lovely guy, you know, and I cherish that guy with all my heart. I do. Why am I building a new pedal board? Building a new pedal board because my old one's just too big and heavy and unruly, and I feel like every 6 years or something like that, they start to get torn up and connections start getting weird. And also, there's a new switcher out from Musicom Lab. I have the new Mark V switcher. It's smaller and it does more, and I can sort of eliminate some other things on my board that I don't need anymore because of the functions that are in that. So I really want to base a new board off of the switcher and streamline it. And so I'm going to use, it's going to be something that we're doing. I haven't talked about this, but it's going to be something that we're doing where we're going to video, like document the building of the board and stuff like that, make a few videos and stuff, and then when it's done, I'll make a full video for the board, I guess. And it's an interesting process, you know. And I'm going to use the Friedman board. Dave's going to do it for me, like he's built all my rigs, and you know, with his interface box and all that in it, and just try and make it even more kind of functional and streamlined. Old one's great, but I can barely lift it. In the case, it's 85 pounds. It's just too heavy. It's like, you know, overweight. I want to get that down to like, if I could get it down to 65 pounds or something in a Pelican case or something, then I'd be pretty happy, I think. Let's see. I better get going, I think. But this has been great, and I'll take one more. Let's see. Let's see. Lots of respect from, here's my last one I'll say. Lots of respect from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you so much. Cape Town is a great place, and I played there once with Chris in 2008. And I had a lot of fun. Went to the top of Table Mountain and looked down over that edge, and there's nothing like it. It's a completely unique place, one of the coolest places I've seen on Earth. And I love how the top of Table Mountain, it almost looks like a desert, like Arizona or something. And then down, you know, it's just crazy, like the juxtaposed with the being way down on the, whatever, beach level, you know. It was an amazing place, Cape Town. Didn't get to spend a lot of time there, but it was incredible. Also, the longest travel I've ever had was going to South Africa. I think it was 30 hours plus, getting from LA to South Africa and then back again. It's pretty bonkers. Got a few stops and layovers, and you feel like you've, you know, been traveling for 2 days for sure, basically, by the time you get there and back. All right, you guys, I better get going. It's been an hour and 20. I think that's probably long enough. But I'll do this again next Sunday. And if you got any suggestions or anything like that, let me know. You know, if you have a Facebook page or, you know, comments in this YouTube video, anything I can do differently, because this is my first real official one, I guess. And let me know if the time seems good. If anybody else wishes I moved it around or whatever. I'm open to suggestions and trying to make it better and stuff like that. So everybody take care. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great week. See you next time.